Let me tell you an interesting story. Is not all men that come into your life you chase away all because of one or two things that the man did not have. Once upon a time, they live a girl called Funny. Funny is a beautiful lady. She always smile, and a woman that have the fear of God. Everybody love her in church. Let the story begin. They live a faithful day. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, its screen lighting up with a name she had almost forgotten. She snatched it, her heart racing. "Hello," she whispered, her voice trembling. On the other end, a familiar deep voice greeted her warmly. "Hey, it's me. I was just thinking about you." For a split second, she froze. Memories surged back, the kind that made her stomach twist with both longing and regret. She had been given chances, real chances with men God had sent, yet, somehow, she had pushed them away. Now, hearing that voice again, the weight of her choices pressed down on her like a storm she had tried to outrun. It wasn't that she didn't want love, she did deeply. She wanted someone to see her for who she truly was, to cherish her faith, her dreams, her heart. But somewhere along the way, her standards, which had started as boundaries, became barricades. She had told herself it was about not settling, about waiting for the right person, but looking back, she realized pride had crept in, whispering doubts and excuses, steering her away from men who were good, kind, and sincere. She remembered Daniel, the first one she had truly connected with. He was gentle, attentive, and respectful. Every conversation had flowed effortlessly, full of laughter and shared faith. "I feel like I can be myself with you," she had said one evening, her cheeks flushed with warmth. Daniel had smiled, holding her gaze. "You should always be yourself," he replied softly. "That's the only way to know if someone truly belongs in your life." But she had hesitated. A small comment he had made about his modest apartment gnawed at her. She had turned it into a reason, convincing herself he wasn't enough for her. She had pushed him away, telling herself it wasn't the right time, though deep down she knew it was pride, not discernment, guiding her actions. Then there was Michael, whose patience seemed infinite. He had texted daily, even when she hadn't replied, leaving small notes of encouragement and prayers. "In praying you see how much you're worth," he had written one afternoon, and she had felt a lump in her throat. He wasn't flashy. He didn't have a high-paying job or a perfect car, but he had values, integrity, and a heart that wanted to love her unconditionally. Yet, she had convinced herself that his lack of ambition in certain areas made him unsuitable. She had watched him fade from her life without fighting for him, letting pride decide her future while claiming she was holding out for the right one. Her friend, Tasha, often tried to warn her. "You were too picky," she said one evening, leaning across the table at their favorite cafe. "I get standards, but you keep letting men slip away because they don't tick every single box in your head." She had laughed nervously, brushing it off. "It's not that simple," she replied, but even as the words left her lips, she knew Tasha was right. She had standards, yes, but pride had built walls taller than any standards ever could. It all escalated one Sunday after church when a new member, Samuel, had approached her. His smile was genuine, his demeanor humble. He had complimented her on a sermon she had given at the youth group, and asked if she would like to grab coffee sometime. "I'd love to get to know you better," he said, eyes sincere. She had stared at him, feeling the pull of something real, something pure, and yet she hesitated. His casual style, the way he wore simple shoes instead of designer ones, triggered an internal critique she didn't even realize she had been harboring. "Maybe another time," she said quickly, her voice tight. Samuel nodded, politely, but she could see the disappointment flicker across his face. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, heart heavy, realizing she had let yet another God-sent opportunity slip through her fingers. The pattern repeated itself like a cruel echo. Men came and went, each one different, each one bringing something unique. Yet, her pride disguised itself as discernment. She dissected every message, every action, every gesture, searching for flaws that weren't there. She replayed conversations in her mind, justifying her rejections with reasons that sounded logical but were nothing more than excuses. And while she told herself she was protecting her heart ached more than ever. She felt lonely, frustrated, and increasingly aware that her pride was the real barrier, not lack of opportunity, not timing, not God's plan, but herself. One evening, as she scrolled through her phone, she came across a message from Daniel, sent months ago. "I hope you're well. I pray you find the love you're looking for, the one God has for you." Her eyes blurred with tears. She typed a response, then deleted it. She couldn't. The words couldn't undo the months of rejection, the subtle messages she had ignored, the doors she had closed. She realized then that pride had cost her not just relationships, but also peace. She had built walls so high that the right people couldn't climb over them, no matter how willing they were. Her mother noticed the change in her. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, her mother reached out, taking her hand. "I see the struggle in your eyes," she said softly. "Sometimes pride disguises itself as wisdom, but it only keeps you from what God wants for you. Are you letting fear or pride decide who gets to love you?" The words struck her like lightning. She had believed she was being wise, choosing carefully, but in truth, she had been choosing to remain in control, rejecting gifts that didn't match her expectations. The realization was painful, yet freeing. For the first time, she saw clearly how much of her heartbreak had been self-inflicted. Determined to change, she began to reflect deeply. She prayed for guidance, for discernment, for the courage to recognize and overcome her pride. She started journaling her experiences, noting the moments where pride had taken over and standards had been misused as excuses. It wasn't easy. Every memory of rejection felt like a scar, a reminder of opportunities lost. But she knew that understanding her own flaws was the first step toward receiving the love God intended for her. Then, a message arrived one rainy evening from Michael. "I just want you to know I'm still praying for you," it read. She paused, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Her mind raced. Could she let go of pride now? Could she admit to herself that she had been wrong to judge so harshly? Her heart ached with both fear and hope. She responded cautiously, keeping the conversation light, but the emotional weight was palpable. She realized that, even though time had passed, some of the men she had disqualified had left behind lessons and feelings that would shape her forever. She remembered the countless nights spent questioning her choices, wondering if God had sent someone she had turned away. The realization was humbling. She had been praying for love, yet she had been rejecting it at every turn, all because of pride disguised as discernment. The journey of recognizing this truth was not easy, but it was necessary. She began to understand that love required openness, humility, and trust, and that pride could never coexist with receiving God's blessings. In the following weeks, she committed herself to change. She consciously observed her reactions to new men entering her life, questioning whether her judgments were standards or pride. She talked openly with friends and mentors about her past mistakes, seeking accountability. Every interaction became a chance to practice discernment without ego, to value character over superficiality, to welcome love without the fear of imperfection. It was a slow process, but every small victory brought relief, a sense of hope, and a glimpse of the love she had been missing. One Saturday, while attending a community gathering, she met Samuel again. The same gentle smile, the same sincerity in his eyes. This time, something was different. She approached him with openness, leaving pride behind. They talked for hours, laughing, sharing their faith journeys, and connecting on a level that felt authentic. Her heart was cautious, yet lighter than it had ever been. For the first time, she realized that letting go of pride didn't mean lowering standards. It meant seeing God's blessings clearly and being willing to embrace them fully. As the evening ended, she walked home with a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. She understood now that every man she had disqualified had been a lesson, a mirror reflecting her own pride and the areas she needed to grow. She wasn't perfect, and neither were the men who came into her life, but she had learned to distinguish between what was healthy and what was ego-driven. Her heart was ready, finally, to accept love without conditions, without barriers, without fear. She looked at her phone and smiled, sending a quick message to her friends. Life is teaching me so much about love, pride, and faith. Don't let pride rob you of what God has for you. She added a note at the end, almost automatically, and hey, if you're watching this, remember to subscribe, comment, and like. Share your story too. It might just help someone else see their own pride. The thought made her laugh softly, a sound full of relief and hope. She realized that the journey of letting go of humility was ongoing, but for the first time, she felt prepared to walk it fully, guided by faith, wisdom, and an open heart. The story of how she disqualified the men God sent wasn't one of regret alone. It was a story of growth, self-awareness, and transformation. Each rejection, each painful lesson, had carved the path toward a heart ready to love and be loved. And as she finally embraced the lessons of her past, she understood that standards were vital, but pride had no place in the dance of faith and love. Her story, raw and honest, was a beacon for anyone struggling between pride and purpose, a reminder that the love meant for you will find you, but only if your heart is open enough to receive it. By the end, she leaned back, breathing deeply, her heart lighter than it had been in years. She whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude, realizing that every heartbreak, every misstep, had led her to this moment of clarity, and with a gentle smile, she typed one last message to her audience. If you're learning to let go of pride, or navigating love and faith, comment your story below. Like, share, and subscribe for more journeys of the heart. Let's walk this path together. Her eyes glistened with tears of relief and hope, knowing that she had finally begun to understand the delicate balance between standards, pride, and God's timing.